Okay, this is MCOM 281 UA, and just a reminder that your evaluation of your first speech is due next week, so we ask you to get that in for me. So thank you to those of you who are live with me, and then to those of you who will be watching this via YouTube when I send that out to you. A reminder to all of you who were not here last day that some of you are watching it via YouTube. The last one, I just sent those out to you. I had trouble with it, so I got those out today. And a reminder that when you watch it, to let me know. I need to know that you've seen it. So make sure you watch it. Don't have them stored up, but get that into me. Tell me which ones you were watching, the date it was due, and I'll try to make sure I line that up so that I have your attendance here. So it's important for you to let me know that you have watched each of these lectures. So just say a lecture on listening, I watched it, that sort of thing. Today, we're going to start with the first part of source credibility. We're only doing a part of this today, and we will be saving the other part for the next day. I'm just double checking something in the syllabus here. We are watching credibility as we talk about the issue, and we're speaking ethically, and that relates to source credibility. So we're speaking, teaching or looking at that area today. And we're going to ask you just to, if you are watching this via YouTube, to make sure I hear about that.
Sir, I have a question. It's me, Savleen Kaur.
Yes,
yes, I have a question. Can you please also put me on the list for the recording links, because I want to take notes about this, if that's okay?
Yep, just give me a second, Savleen. I'm doing that right now.
Thank you.
You're on. Thank you for asking. Okay, great. And so we had a little bit of trouble, and so I didn't get it out until I think yesterday, the last one. But the next one should be able to go out tomorrow if all goes according to plan here, and it should. So thank you. Now, today we're going to be looking at what I consider, personally, this is not what everybody necessarily agrees that teaches in communication, but I consider this the single most important topic in public speaking. That's me personally. If you're going to be giving a speech, this is an area that you definitely want to do well in. Being able to have really thought through the area of source credibility. If you do it well, if this is an asset to you, it makes you a far superior communicator. By not doing it, it takes away. And just one question I need to ask, I just need to make sure something here. Could somebody just tell me, can you, because I'm not seeing myself, can you see me?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. I consider this the epicenter of public speaking, meaning it's the central factor that is so critical. Everything we share in this class is absolutely important to do a good speech, but this is so critical to it. It's the issue of perception. We'll be looking at that in just a moment. So let's get into it and talk about this topic here. Just see if I can get my computer to put that on. There we are. Source credibility deals with the ethos that a speaker has with his or her audience. Now, ethos really is the issue of perception. It's how the listener sees you as a speaker. That's so critical. The issue for the speaker is the perception that the audience has of them as a speaker. You might wish that everybody saw you a certain way. They may and they may not. Sometimes it's surprising how people actually perceive us. And it's important for us to realize this. For instance, if you were going to consider buying a car somewhere and you met a salesman and you thought, I don't trust him or her, they're not likely going to get the business. You're probably not going to buy a vehicle from them. Why? Because you didn't trust them, or you didn't think that they really knew what they were talking about, or any number of factors. So how we perceive is absolutely critical to what is going on. And I understand the importance of this from a professor's perspective. Let me give an example. Let me help you understand what I'm saying. When I walk into a class, I'm not talking about on Zoom, I'm talking about into a classroom. And I have a room full of students and we're going to be taking public speaking. And it's the first day that I walk in, the beginning of the semester. And when I walk in, I'm very much aware that, some students are talking away, but I'm very much aware that there are people watching me, the students. This is their first exposure to me. They're sizing me up. They're trying to figure out what I am like. Do I smile? Do I look strict? Do I look relaxed? They know that I'm the professor. They know it because I have gray hair. They know it because I walk up to the front of the room with authority and I put my computer on the table at the front. So they know immediately I'm here to teach the course. But the question is, what am I like as a person? What am I like as a professor? They're watching everything about me, how I walk in. How much authority do I seem to have? How much confidence do I seem to have? How much enjoyment about coming in to teach the course do I have? They may not be saying these in their mind, but their brain is taking in information about my nonverbals right away. And what I try to do is, as I walk in and I'm setting up my desk or my desk and then my computer on my desk and hooking it up and getting it ready, I might look up and somebody's looking at me and I might smile at them and say, hi, what's your name? John. Oh, it's good to meet you, John. And whatever the person's name is. And I'm hooking up my computer and we talk for a few seconds and a couple other students join in or others are watching. I'm very much aware that the students are creating a perception of me as the teacher. Now, in some cases, the students have already asked other students who've had me, what's he like? I know that goes on. You know why I know that goes on? Because I did it. I had friends who had a professor in a class before me, and I was asking, well, what's he like? And I get the lowdown on what I'm like, or at least how they perceive what I'm like. And so this goes on all the time. And we are creating a perception of a person. When you walk up front of an audience to speak and they don't know you, they're creating their perception of you. Everything you do is absolutely critical. You see, you are the message. You're the speaker. You are the one who has the message. You literally inhabit the message. And everything about you is really important to them, and certainly the perception of you to yourself. So this is not something you take lightly. This is something you take seriously. How you walk in, how you walk up, how you are dressed, how you are groomed, how you show confidence, how you look at your audience before speaking, how you have facial expressions that show warmth and interest. All those factors are things that your audience are taking in the whole time. It does not take an audience long to make decisions about you, right or wrong. It doesn't take them long to begin to make a decision about you. The first 17 to 21 seconds of a speech are the single most important time, not the most important things you're going to share happen in the first 17 to 21 seconds. But what does happen is the perception that the audience establishes about you happens in that time frame. That doesn't mean your introduction's done in the first 17 to 21 seconds. It takes longer than that. But what is critical is to understand that your credibility, the perception the audience has of you, because you're the source. The source is the speaker. It's the issue of our impression of them, our perception of them. Is it positive? Is it negative? And 17, 21 seconds, audiences make decisions about you. And so those first sentences coming out of your mouth are pretty important. Walking up to the podium before that, very important. Everything about you. They're watching you. They're paying attention. They're making impressions in their mind about you. The issue for the speaker is the perception that the audience has of them. That is source credibility. I consider that statement the single most important statement that I will share in this course personally. It is not the most important skill sets that you will develop as a public speaker, but you need to understand speaking is not just getting up in front of people and saying words. That's a part of it. It's building a relationship with them. It's demonstrating that you have the capacity to speak, that you have the right to speak on a topic, that you will speak about it with conviction because you have really prepared, you care about this. The perception is absolutely critical. Never take this part for granted. It's likely the most powerful factor to be aware of in speech making and delivery. I think it is, personally, the most powerful factor to be aware of in speech making. Nobody's going to walk up to you and say, wow, was I impressed with how you came across as being credible. But in their brain, they're making conclusions about you. We are a people that evaluate all the time. Have you ever picked up the TV clicker and you didn't know what was on TV? You just wanted to kind of veg. You just wanted to relax. You wanted to watch something. You did not want to think about anything else. You just wanted to escape from the world, in a sense, escape from responsibility. So you pick up the TV clicker and you turn on the TV and you click something on. How long do you leave it on before you're looking for something else? Seconds. You know, click, click, click. What makes you stop clicking? What makes you stop and put the clicker down for a moment and watch a little bit longer? Something is happening on the screen that intrigues you. And you're wondering what that's about. And so you, for a moment, you leave it and you watch carefully. You may not stay there long, and you might. What is it that holds your attention, that prevents you from going to another channel? That is precisely what happens to you when you stand in front of an audience. People have mental clickers. And they're sitting there and they may have to stay in the room while you're speaking, but they, by evaluating you, are making a decision. Do I want to go to a different channel mentally or stay with you? So you need to pay attention to that. Remember the green light, the red light, the yellow light? When you walk in, usually it's a green light. What you do determines whether you go yellow and then red, or stay red or stay green. What happens in the mind of the listener is critical. They are perceiving you. And if they put the clicker down and say, oh, this is interesting, I think I'll give that person, he or she, a chance to keep talking here and I'll listen. And maybe I'll listen the whole time. And it's wise for you, the listener, to actually listen the whole time, to give that person an opportunity. Source credibility. It's the ethos. It is the perception an audience has of you if you are the speaker. I mean, you don't want red lights. You don't want to stand in front of people talking and nobody listening. You want to stand up in front of an audience to engage them, to have them listen to what you have to say, because what you have to say is dear and important to you, and you believe it should be important to them. Well, then you want them listening to you. Source credibility is a major issue. A perception of a speaker can vary from audience to audience. I mean, do not think just because I gave a great speech here with this group, I could use the same speech over there. If you haven't thought about the needs of that particular audience, which will be different from the first audience you spoke to, you need to understand your perception can change. Never, never, never take it for granted. Just because you gave the same speech somewhere else, that it's easy to give it somewhere else. You need to properly prepare. We're going to talk about audience analysis here too, as we move along. But today, what we're specifically talking about, and I'm just checking something here, is the issue of credibility. And next day, we're going to go on to on Monday of next week, we're going to go on to audience analysis, looking at it further, because that's a critical issue in public speaking. But right now, we're talking about the source credibility. It can vary from audience to audience. You have to take seriously what you're speaking. You have to prepare based on that audience so that the perception of you is positive. It is a dynamic process that can change within a single speech. It is a dynamic process that can change within a single speech. Okay. In politics in British Columbia, where I live, where I'm speaking from, I'm in Abbotsford, British Columbia. Many years ago, there was a speech given that changed the direction of the political landscape of British Columbia. There were two major parties always vying for power. Every 4 years, we have an election. And the two parties were the Social Credit Party, which was a right center, center-right party. And we had the New Democratic Party, which was a center-left party. And they were always veering for power, wanting power. And every 4 years, we had an election. Well, 1 year, a new party entered into the scene. It's a party that's been around Canada, but not been in British Columbia, called the Liberal Party. And they were trying to gain some representation in government. And so the election, the process of speech making was taking place between the two key leaders of the Social Credit Party and the NDP Party. Basically, both were saying, don't vote for them, vote for us. Don't vote for them, vote for us. They are not good, we are good. They are not good, we are good. I suspect you've seen some of that in some countries. And the whole process went on and on for several weeks. And now we're getting towards the election. And they're going to have a TV debate. And in the TV debate, it's going to be it's going to be the NDP and the Social Credit. But the new party that still didn't have any seats in the legislature, called the Liberals, were told that they could, with their person representing their party, Gordon Gibson, could also be on the debate. And so there's these three men who are leading the parties on debate. But most of the discussion took place between the NDP and the Social Credit Party. And they were debating each other. And they weren't talking as much about policy as much as trying to make the other party look bad. Don't vote for them. Don't vote for them. Evil, evil. Vote for us. Vote for us. It got nauseating. It got tiring. And in the debate, they were doing the same thing. At the end of the debate, each of the leaders of the three parties were allowed to make a statement. And so the Social Credit Party shared the thoughts. They had about 3 or 4 minutes and said, don't vote for them. We're the better ones. And the NDP got up there and said, don't vote for them. We're the better ones. And that's basically what the two leaders said. Then Gordon Gibson was allowed to give a speech representing the Liberal Party that didn't even have a seat in the legislature. And in that moment, he gave a speech, about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. That single speech changed things in the political landscape in British Columbia. He got up front, he looked into the camera, he spoke to us sitting there in our living rooms, listening and watching the debate, and said, aren't you getting tired of them? Aren't you getting tired of them? All they're doing is fighting for power. You are whom decides who should be in power. Do you not want a party that thinks about you, the citizen of British Columbia? The Liberal Party cares about you. And we are here to make policies for you. This province is not owned by the NDP. This province is not owned by the Social Credit. The party belongs to you, the citizens of British Columbia. Aren't you tired of them bickering back and forth, not talking about policy, but just trying to discredit each other? Don't you want a fresh start? Don't you want a party that cares about the people? Vote for us. Did he win the election? No, he did not win the election. He got 2 or 3 seats in the legislature, however. And while that was a minor amount, it still was a point of reference. Now the Liberal Party had a foothold. Some years later, the Liberals became the ruling party of British Columbia. Today, they fight with the NDP. The NDP are now in rulership as the majority, and the Liberals are the minority. But back in those days, the Liberals eventually became the leaders of that party. What happened? In a single speech that took about 4 minutes, around 4 minutes, changed everything in politics in British Columbia. And so now the two major parties are the NDP and the Liberals. It is a dynamic process that can change within a single speech. You could give a speech that wows people. You could give a speech that changes people. You could give a speech that's at exactly the right time. I gave a speech once. It was in a church. We had invited a man to become the lead pastor, and I was speaking that Sunday. He wasn't there. He'd now left, and the church had voted and sent him an invitation. And the chairman of the board got up front prior to my speaking and said he declined. He said no. The whole church sagged in that moment. There we are in the service, and they got the bad news. And I got up front and I had a message and I gave it. It was the right message at the right time. And in that single moment, as everybody's shoulders sagged in disappointment, I gave this message and they straightened their backs. And they thanked me for it. See, you can do that in a speech. You could give a speech that's so critical to people at just the right time. How they perceive you becomes critical to that. The perception that an audience has of a speaker can be it's their greatest asset or the greatest liability. If you're perceived as being somebody you cannot trust, you've got a problem. If you're perceived as a person that is trustworthy, that's an asset, that's valuable, that's important, that's necessary. And it makes a huge, huge difference in how the audience is going to perceive you. Source credibility, the perception the audience has of you as a speaker, either is helpful or harmful to you as a speaker. And there are all sorts of things you need to do that builds that perception into somebody worthy of being listened to, worthy of considering what is being said, to be informed or to be persuaded in making decisions in the next while, what you or what they will do. How you're perceived can either help you or hurt you. That's why it is so critical that you prepare well, that you are thoughtful about your audience, that you care about your audience, that you've developed your speech to make a difference to your audience. I'm just going to make an adjustment here. And so you need to be ready, thoroughly ready, to give a speech that is well received from your audience. There are 6 sources of ethos that we're going to consider. And this is all we're covering today. These 6. And I'm going to ask you to think about, well, which one would you choose? And they're all important, all necessary, but which one do you sit back and say, wow, I really, really did like that one. I really see that one as one of the most important to me. So think about that as I'm going through these. Competence is the first of the 6. This involves the perception of an audience that an audience has of a speaker as being competent. In other words, a valid source of information due to their qualifications, their training, their skills, their experience, their position, their title, their age, or their reliability. You need to be perceived by your audience as somebody that is competent in regard to not just public speaking, but the topic that you are speaking on. You want them to say, this person has the right to speak on this topic because of their qualifications, their training, their skills, their experience, their position, their title, age, or reliability. Let me give an illustration, or let me help you understand. At the beginning of this semester, when we began the class and I was introducing the course, I stopped and I introduced myself. I talked about my family. I don't know if I showed you pictures of them, but I talked about my wife. We're married 50 years last December. Now we have 2 children, 2 daughters. Both my daughters are married. They're married to brothers, so they have the same last name again, a married name. My oldest daughter and son-in-law have 3 children. I have a granddaughter and 2 grandsons. So I shared that so you understand, okay, he's mature. He's had life experience. I share that so you have a sense of who I am as a person, but also that you understand that I've got life experience. Then I went on and I shared about my training. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree, a Master of Arts degree, and a Doctor of Education degree. And I shared what my majors were in. But I showed that I had communication as a part of my BA, my MA, and my EDD. I showed you that my major area of focus was in education at the BA, the MA, and the EDD, a Doctor of Education degree. My Doctor of Education degree, I mentioned I have it in adult education, secondly, in college university teaching, and then thirdly, in communication. I'm trying to establish something here with you. I'm trying to establish that I have the academic credentials that help me be credible in regard to being a professor. I have now been at Trinity Western. This is my 31st year. At the end of the semester, I will have been with Trinity for 31 years. I have been teaching at the end of this semester. It'll be 39 years total that I have been doing teaching. And most of the time, most of those years, I taught a few sections of public speaking and other courses at the same time. That's a fairly good track record of teaching in the area of communication. I told you that public speaking is, to this day, my favorite course. I'm telling you all this about my education and about my teaching experience, and that I've been teaching this course particularly for 39 years. Why? I'm doing it to build my credibility. I'm doing it so you get a perception of, okay, this guy's not just starting out. This guy's not a rookie. This guy has been here a long time. I have taught this course. This is my 39th year of teaching this specific course. I've taught several sections of this course at one time. About 3 semesters ago, I think I taught 5 or 6 sections of this course in one semester, plus 3 sections of another course. Way too many courses for a semester. Most profs teach 8 sections of courses in their academic year. That particular year, I taught 16 or 17 sections of my courses. Yes, I know, that's crazy. Shouldn't have done that. So I slowed it down. I'm still teaching more sections of this course of communication courses than is normal, but not anywhere as many as before. I'm sharing all that so that you understand something. I have a great deal of qualifications in my education and my training. I've gone to seminars too. My skills I've been developing as a communicator and as a public communication professor. I have a lot of experience. I have given hundreds of speeches over the years. My position, I'm on staff here at Trinity Western. I'm not full-time anymore. I just teach a few, well, supposedly a few courses a year. I am a professor. I have that title. I am older than I think all of you. I have reliability. I've been doing it for year after year after year, and they keep asking me. And I hope they keep doing that. Why is that important? It's important to you. You see, I come from a lot of experience background. That's valuable. That's credibility. So your perception, whether you like me or not, is another thing. But your perception has to be, he's at least a valid source of information. He's been doing it because of his qualifications, his training, his skills, his experience, his position, his title, his age, and his reliability for a long time. You need to build that with your audience. Now, you can't say, oh, I got to wait till I'm really old before I give my first speech. No, that's not what I'm saying. What you need to do is create the perception of truth that you have competence in regard to speaking. Now, maybe your competence will be lower when you first start doing some speeches. Like maybe you want to speak on something that you really care about. Always choose topics where you've got some training or some experience, whether it's reading, whether it's writing, whether it's taking courses, whether it's a professional job you've done, whatever you can do related to the topic and it's your exposure to it, to build up the perception of, you know what, he can speak on this. Listen, as you know, I think I mentioned in December, My wife and I, Joanne, have been married 50 years. One of my favorite topics is marriage. I talk about marriage. 50 years suggests that maybe I have some credibility in the area of the issue of marriage, successful marriage. So I talk about that. What is it? What is it that you have a passion for and you have some credibility at? Whatever it is. You don't have to have all the education in the world, all the experience in the world, but there are some things that you have already accumulated. You need to sit back and say, what are my assets that I bring to the table when I speak on a topic? That's important. You don't go around bragging. You don't get up front of audience and say, hey, I'm the greatest, whatever, and doing it such and such, whatever. You don't do that. But you do let your audience know. And we'll talk about what an introduction has. We'll show you where that fits into an introduction. Competence, critical area. A second area is the issue of trustworthiness. I told you that source credibility, the issue of perception of an audience of you as a speaker, is the epicenter of public speaking. And I believe that. And I told you that these 6 factors are all important. Let me just make this very clear to you. What you're seeing on the screen right now, the issue of trustworthiness, in my opinion, is the epicenter of the epicenter. This statement right here, to me, is the single most important topic of public speaking, the issue of trustworthiness. It involves the perception, always the perception of an audience, because an audience is perceiving you, of you as a speaker as being honest, fair, just, objective, and honorable. Are you honest? Are you fair? Are you just? Do you choose to be objective? And are you honorable? If you are these things, and people know that, when they talk about you, they will say, that's a person I trust. Trust is most critical. I consider trust as one of the 3 most important issues of having a successful marriage. Trust, love, commitment. Trust is critical. It's true in regard to the economy. If people trust the economy is going well, they spend money. The moment that they're not so sure, they quit spending money, and that helps to hurt the economy. The reality is that when we have a recession, it's because people aren't trusting the economy. When the economy is growing, it's because people trust the economy. When a marriage is healthy, part of it, cornerstone to that, is because the couple trust each other. When you work with a boss and you're happy and he's happy with each other, with each other, it's because of trust. I trust you to do a good job. You work for me. Or I trust you because you're my boss and you do your best to make sure things go well for me. Trust. This involves a perception that an audience has of you as a speaker, one who is honest, fair, just, objective, and honorable. It's one that you must take seriously. Seriously. Years ago, I, along with teaching at Trinity Western University, and I taught at the ACTS seminaries on the Trinity Western University campus, I also was working in a church part-time. And I was the pastor of family ministries. We called it home ministries. I had an administrative assistant. And we had this occasion where my wife and I, on the Sunday night before, had this seminar night that we do. It was called Life Mates. We talk about a topic on marriage. And there would be about, trying to think how many people, about 170 couples would come to us. About 330, 340 people at round tables, 8 people per table. And we had a good night. We did it about just 3 or 4 times a year. That's all. Made it a big night. So a lot of fun. It was a 2-hour session. You come together, you sit around the table with other couples. There were finger food to eat, and coffee and tea and cold drink to have. And we had a program all laid out for the people. And they could take notes on what we'd be talking about. We had an MC who made sure that the evening went well. We had door prizes for people, like books on marriage. We had a coffee night or a dessert night or something. In fact, it was going so well. One couple walked up and said, "We are prepared to give out a ticket for a couple to have a trip to Hawaii." Ooh, it actually didn't happen. But we actually gave out tickets to a sports event, but they were to go as a couple. And then we would have this talk. Joanne and I would give a talk on an aspect of marriage. Okay. And then after that, the couples would sit around the table and we had questions on the program. And they would go in, and somebody at the table would facilitate that particular table. And they would talk, and then when the time came near time to close, we'd kind of shut it down, have a few more talks, and bring closure, and the evening would be over. It's about 2 hours. Okay. And like I said, we had about 170, maybe even up to 175, probably more like 165 to 170 couples, come. So over 340-ish people. On Tuesday night, that would be on a Sunday night. On the Tuesday night, on the Tuesday morning, I was in my office and my administrative assistant came in to see me. And we had meetings to go to. And she said, "Could I talk to you before we go to our departmental meeting?" I said, "Sure." She said, "I have to be honest with you." I said, "Okay." She said, "I made a mistake on how many tickets to sell." I said, "Okay." She said, "Normally we sell 170 tickets or so. I miscalculated. And I think," she said, "we only sold about 150 sets of tickets, which would be like 300 people. We could have had about another 30 or 40 people there. It was my mistake." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, let's talk about that." And the big question I had is, so what do we learn from this? She said, "Well," and she shared a couple of things that we just need. It's her responsibility. And I said, "Okay, great. Thank you. Good enough. We learn, we move on. People make mistakes." But you need to hear this. That gal was honest with me. She made a mistake. It didn't crush the world. And I said, "Thank you." When she walked back to her desk, I remember sitting back in my chair. And I remember breathing, thinking, I am working with an incredibly honorable, honest administrative assistant. I am so fortunate. To this day, I still have more trust in her than all the other people I worked with in that church. And I don't mean they weren't trustworthy. I'm just telling you that she displayed it. When you're standing in front of an audience, you don't make up the story. You don't fake it. You speak truth. When you don't speak truth, and if it comes out, you're finished. People are not going to listen to you and believe what you have to say. You need to be trustworthy. So make sure you do that. I was teaching at Oregon State University, and one of the professors, Dr. Doler, who was came onto my my own doctoral committee. He wanted to get to know me. So he said, "I know you teach courses in public speaking, but I also teach, and I'd like to have you." And I was accountable to him. He was my boss in communications department. "I was wondering if you would be willing to teach a course with me. I'll be the professor, but you just help at different times, so we can get to know each other." I said, "Absolutely, glad to do it." because he's on my doctoral committee, and one day I'm going to need his signature to get my doctor's degree, which did happen. And we were in a course, and it was the first speech, and the student got up there, and everybody at Oregon State University had to take at least one communications course. And we had 16 to 20,000 students in the class, the university. And this one guy got up, and the way we did this is it was speech time for the first speech. And Dr. Doler said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Curtis, we'll listen to all the speakers. And then I'm going to ask you to give a remark about one, a student. And then we'll have 2 or 3 students give a remark. And then I'll give a remark. I said, okay. So we may have had the students give the remark, and then I gave a remark, then Dr. Doler. But 3 or 4 of 5 of us would speak to each student. Say, here's an observation, a strength, and here's something to work on, that sort of stuff. There was a student that got up that day and spoke. And there was more than one, but this one particular one. And he was the last speaker of the day. And then we did all the evaluations of all the speakers and came to him. Now I was talking to him, and so I said, here's a couple of things, 3 things, I was really impressed. I mean, this guy did an incredible job. I'm thinking like, wow. He spoke about how he was taking this course. He was graduating from Oregon State very shortly, that 3 universities had offered him an opportunity to take a Master of Business Administration, tuition paid for, and that he also had thought through a whole concept about finances, because he was in business administration. He did a nice job. And so I spoke, and I was impressed. And then 2 or 3 other students spoke, and we were all impressed. And then Dr. Doler spoke. You need to understand, Dr. Doler, the professor, he never smiled. He just never smiled, except when he got up front. He looked at the student and he smiled. He also was impressed. So he shared some glowing things about his speech. After he had finished, or as he was finishing up, the student started to chuckle. And Dr. Doler said, what's so funny? He said, well, to be honest with you, there isn't any universities that have offered me tuition waiver if I'll come and work on an MBA with them. And well, to be honest with you, this is my last semester and I am finishing up my business degree. But to be really honest with you, the material I got came from this magazine, and it was really some of the President of the United States concepts about economics. I mean, the guy lied. He lied, and then he told us, I lied to you. I mean, that's not being bright at all. He still had 2 or 3 more speeches to give, and he had a very long semester in our class. Dr. Doler was not easy on him because he'd lost the trust of Dr. Doler. You don't want to lose that. The third source of credibility. Remember, you, the speaker, are the source. It's your credibility. It's how you perceive. So the source is the speaker. Credibility is how people perceive that source, the person who speaks. Similarity. This involves the perception of an audience, of a speaker, as having similar and shared values, beliefs, attitudes, and interests. You need a connection with your audience. Do they perceive you as a person who has similar and shared values, beliefs, attitudes, and interests? It doesn't mean you have to have the exact positions, but you have to have some similarities, some connections with. I told you, I think, that I spoke to a very hostile audience on the Trinity Western University campus. 5 organizations came together on early childhood education. 4 of them had a very different philosophical basis of life than I did. And they perceived me in a negative way. Okay, their perception was negative of me before I even spoke. And one of the strategies that I used, and I'll be getting into what I did later when we talk about an introduction, that I used to ensure that I got my audience connected with me, was demonstrating that we actually had similar and shared values, beliefs, and attitudes and interests. And even though we had some very different, significant different ones, and because this was on early childhood education, and I taught courses in education on childhood education, early childhood education, education of adolescents, and education, my doctorate's adult education, and education of adults, I was able to show them that I am deeply interested and deeply concerned about the well-being of children, just like they are. I believe them to be heroes in our society. I believe that they were important and valued because they were dealing with the youngest minds that were going to school these days. And it was critical for us that we do the right things and care for. I started sharing that, and I had my audience almost eating out of my hand because I was saying the things that they agree with. I was showing them, you know what? You and I, we have similar and shared values. We care about children. We care about little children. And we have strong beliefs in their potential. And I showed attitudes and interests that were similar to theirs. No, we didn't agree on some of the more fundamental things, but that didn't mean there wasn't a common ground. There is. And I showed similarity. And so when you're speaking, you need to find common ground. Now, how do you do that? Part of it is doing audience analysis. That's what we get on to next week when we talk about the next section about this. So you need to understand your perception, the perception the audience has of you, I should say, is like, do you and I have common ground? Like, do we have some similar values, beliefs, attitudes, interests? And if we do, then I'm more likely going to listen to you. The fourth one, attraction. This involves the perception of an audience. All these involves the perception of an audience of you, the speaker, as being attractive racially, in appearance, and in personality attributes. It doesn't mean that you are physically a beautiful person, however the world describes a beautiful person, but it means this, that you are comfortable, first of all, in your own skin with who you are. Whether you be Asian, whether you be Indo-Canadian, whether you be Caucasian, whatever you happen to be, matters not. See, in my philosophical basis, I believe God created us in his own image. That makes all of us valuable. And so are you comfortable being who you are? And it doesn't mean are you pretty, but how do you take care of yourself to the degree you can? Are you attractive in how you feel about yourself and value yourself, in how you actually present yourself to your audience? I don't mean you should go to a place and everywhere you go when you're going to be a public speaker, you should wear a tuxedo. If everybody's wearing blue jeans, you don't want to overdress, nor do you want to underdress based on the audience and who they are. So whenever somebody asks you to come and speak, you need to say, talk to me about my audience. And we'll talk about that next day. Are you attractive racially? You're comfortable in your own skin. Are you comfortable? Do you choose to look as nice as you can? And are you comfortable with your personality attributes? Some of us are quieter. Being quiet's okay. Introverts are just as significant as extroverts. That's not the issue here. Are you comfortable with your personality attributes? Whatever that happens to be. You see, when you are comfortable with you, people are comfortable with you. When you get past yourself and are comfortable with people, people notice that. So attraction, it's a perception. The audience has a view of being attractive racially, in appearance, or personality attributes. Number 5 is sincerity. Now, this involves the perception of an audience, of a speaker, as being one who seems to mean what he or she is saying. Are you sincere about that? Now, if you were looking at the evaluations I gave you, I got talking about these 6 areas. I may have written down you're trustworthy, or you came across competent, or you came across with some similarity, or you came across attraction in the right sense of the word, or you came across as sincere. You know what? You really came across as somebody who meant what they were saying. You said what you meant, and you meant what you said. Do you do that? You see, I love listening to a person when they're speaking and they're sincere about what they're saying. They mean it. Now, that doesn't mean you're always right, and you got to be careful about that. Okay. But being very sincere is very important. You know, if you give a speech in this class, I'm giving a speech because I have to, and you get up front and you speak that way, people will know you don't really care. So how you choose to present is very, very important. You need to be aware of that. The last one is dynamism. Dynamism. This involves the perception of an audience, of a speaker, as being bold, active, energetic, strong, and assertive. There's energy there. Have you ever listened to a speaker and you sat there saying, could you just speak a lot faster? Could you just show that you really mean with your passion what you're talking about? Can you really show me energy? Have you had another speaker get up there and you were saying, man, that person loves what they're talking about. They obviously, this is where they live. This is where their lives are all about. This is what they enjoy doing. This is what's important to them. This involves the perception that you have, that they're speaking, that they're bold, that they're active, they're energetic, they're strong, that they're assertive. They mean what they're talking about. They're excited about this. That's important. I was reading some research. In fact, there's 2 sets of research that were done from 2 separate decades, asking university students like you to simply mark what was the most important, second most important, down to the 10th most important characteristic of the professors. So there were 10 factors. And all the students had to do is write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever they wanted. Number 1 meaning this is the most important thing about the professor. This was the second most important in his or her opinion. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Very interesting findings, because this was what you call ordinal research, putting them in order, how the students saw these. What was really interesting is that in both these researches, the professor's dynamism, the professor's passion, the professor's boldness, energy, how assertive the professor was about their topic was seen as more important than the professor's knowledge of the topic, of which was high. I mean, and yet students come to the university to learn from professors. Knowledge about a particular field of study that the student eventually wants to make a part of their career. Yet, in both researches, the professor's passion was higher than the professor's knowledge. Does it mean knowledge wasn't important? Not at all. In fact, quite the opposite. It meant that the knowledge was so critical to this professor that the professor lived this, loved this, could not stop from sharing about this. Boy, when an audience listens to a speaker who's passionate about what they're speaking about, you know it. I mean, I've listened to some speakers, and some of them I felt like putting up my hand and saying, do you believe what you say? If you do, would you please show me? Others, teachers, other speakers have spoken, and I've sat there absolutely fixed on what they were saying, dynamically impacted by what they were saying. Why? Because of their energy, their passion. Man, they loved what they were talking about. They cared about what they were talking about. Deeply, deeply cared about what they were talking about. Dynamism. So here are the 6 again. Listen carefully, listen to them, and I want you now, because I'm going to ask each one of you, there's only about 10 of you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's about 10 of you in class, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 students who are taking this from distance. So I can't ask them because I'm not going to hear them. However, if you're watching this, and I'm asking you to watch it, if you are not here, but you got to watch it on YouTube. When you watch it, you're to tell me you watched this part of Source Credibility. Tell me which of the 6 were most important to you. Doesn't matter which one. So students who are with me, there are 10 of you. I'm going to call out your name. I'm going to ask you which of these 6, I mean, they're all important. It's not like you're going to say something wrong, but which one did you sit there and say, wow, this is the one that I thought was the most important to me. So here they are. You may want to write them down because I'm going to ask you. Competence, trustworthiness, similarity, attraction, sincerity, dynamism. So I'll just show you again what they are. Oops. Okay, there's competence, remember? Trustworthiness. So write down, get ready. I'm going to ask each of you, I'm going to call out your name. Similarity, attraction, sincerity, dynamism. I'm going to ask you, all you have to do is just say, I'm not going to say, oh, wrong answer, but which one just struck you? Just choose one. They're all important. I don't question how important they all are. So I'm just going to start with Abner, you're here. If you had to choose, and they're all important. Abner, which one really struck you? Abner?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just choose one. Dynamism, sincerity, attraction, similarity, trustworthiness, and a competence.
Competence.
Competence, okay. Very important. I mean, when a person's going to speak, you want that person to have the right to speak on the topic because they've got the training, skills, experience, etc. Good one, good choice. Okay, Lute, which one did you choose? Competence, trustworthiness, similarity, attraction, sincerity, or dynamism? Lute, are you here? Lute? Okay, you're not answering. Mariam, which one?
Yeah, I will choose trustworthiness. As you said, don't fake it, don't
Right.
play it. So it's really made me think about it.
Excellent. It's a good choice. Onala, thank you. Onala, which one would you choose? Competence, Trustworthiness, similarity, attraction, sincerity, dynamism.
I would choose trustworthiness because I think the honesty and fair aspect in it is really important.
Excellent. Agreed. Excellent answer. Savleen, which one would you choose? Whoops.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, for me, both trustworthiness and attraction are the most important while giving a speech, because attraction gives you an overall view of the speaker, like how is he attractive, like the personality he's trying to convey the speech. And trustworthiness is the message he wants to convey in a fairness to the audience. So I think these two are the most important.
Excellent. Okay, good choice. Thank you. I'm just trying to remember the name here. Just give me a second. Sorry for this. I thought I had the name here. Not seeing it. Where is your name? See if I can find it here. Just give me a sec here. Okay. I hope I pronounce this right. Is it Sheho Zhang? I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. Are you here? Okay, you were here. Luke, which one would you choose? Luke? Yebe. Yebai. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, which one would you choose? They're all important. Can you choose one?
I think second one.
Trustworthiness? Is that the one you meant?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
The second one.
Okay, trustworthiness. Very important. Critical. If you're going to have an audience, trust you, because you don't have that, you're in trouble. Okay, Amanda.
Similarity.
Similarity?
Yes.
Excellent. You need those shared values. And when you have those connections, you're able to build a rapport and to build the whole issue of reception to what you have to say. Good one. Ivy.
I will choose attraction and trustworthiness.
Okay, trustworthiness, did you say? Or
Trustworthiness and attraction.
okay, great. Those are incredibly important ones. Very similar to what was said before. They're all critical because they impact an audience. Okay, Davis.
Yeah.
Okay, which one of these would you choose? Okay.
Dynamism.
Okay, dynamism. A very important one. Boy, it's great to know that an audience, that a speaker means what he or she is saying and has the energy and sharing it with real passion. Important. Well, you see, all of you have answered well, because all 6 of these are really very much critical to how an audience is going to receive you. So please remember that source credibility is really either it's either an asset or it's a liability. And you need to be aware of that in public speaking, and it's critical. How you're perceived by your audience is important. We're done. Today is over. Just a reminder that your short little 2-page paper is due next week. So trust you can get that in. Thank you. And to the class that are going to be watching this on YouTube in the next few days, remind you that you watch it, then you have to let me know that you watched it. And if you'd let me know which of these 6 you would choose, that would be fun to see what you have to say. Have a good day and have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday of next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm sorry, you said the assignment is the evaluation of our speech.
Yes. It's due
Okay,
next-
so if we did, we don't have to do anything
no.
extra?
If you've done it, you're done. If you've handed it in, Marianne, I think you did, you're done. So relax. You get to enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Take
Goodbye.
care. Bye.
Hi, Professor.
Yeah,
So, could you send me the PowerPoint to me? I want to review the courses or the class.
Okay, wait a minute now. Do you mean you want this session sent to you or you want the PowerPoints?
PowerPoint. So I noticed that you sent me the whole PowerPoint.
Yes.
Didn't have this one.
It didn't have this one?
Yeah.
Okay, you're the only one saying that or just, okay, I'll make sure you got it, IVI, because it should have been there, but I'll make sure, I'm just writing this down, IV today's PowerPoint, okay? I'll check that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Have a
So
good weekend.
yeah, and one more question. So our evaluation due time is next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
So I have already received your feedback.
Yeah.
So should I borrow some idea or from your feedback?
No, don't worry about my feedback on writing your paper. You got those on page 4 of the syllabus. Just looking here and making sure it's on page 4. The top of the first part of the top of page 4 is a description what you're to do. Just
Okay.
follow that. That's all you have to do.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
You bet. Have a good weekend.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
I have sent you my